Hey, what's going on, guys? I don't know about you, but I feel like I'm constantly seeing fighters win the UFC championship and immediately start advocating for an opportunity to move up a weight class and attempt to become double champion. And I wanted to make a video ranting about this because I feel like this has become the norm now. It's like somebody wins a belt and then all of a sudden they're already angling for a shot at the champion above them, or some like Ilia Topuria is advocating for super fights that are basically irrelevant to the division. And I feel like it hasn't got to a point where it's ruining the sport yet. It's just becoming annoying. But if we keep letting it go down that slippery slope and we keep saying, oh, well, I kind of want to see this, and then the UFC starts going in this direction, it's eventually going to ruin the sport. We're not going to have any semblance of meritocracy. And also, I feel like there's big fights that get ruined because, oh, let's see a quote-unquote super fight. And the term super fight has been perverted by the MMA community over the past 5, 6, 7 years. And by the way, guys, if you did not know, the term super fight originally was two champions who had basically cleaned out their divisions, and now they were going to fight each other. Now, super fight is any fight that is kind of like perceived as some type of big draw, you know, like if Conor McGregor takes on Nate Diaz in the trilogy, let's say that gets announced for UFC 300, there'll be people calling that a super fight. That's not actually a super fight, but I feel like this kind of normalcy of calling for double champ status is basically becoming the normal, and it's basically kind of infected every single division in the UFC, and we're going to go through each division. And I feel like nobody talks about the real reason why this is happening, so we're going to talk about that in this video, as well as what I think should happen before you get a shot to become double champion. I want to start off going through the divisions very briefly, because you start off with flyweight. We're only going to talk about the men's divisions, but you start off with the flyweight, and I'm going to complain about some of these champions, but some of them aren't as egregious as others. You know, it's some of these guys are kind of hinting at a potential move up in a title shot against, you know, the weight class above, but other guys are like really advocating for it hard. We're going to talk about who really is advocating for it hard, but I feel like every single weight class has at least hinted at potentially fighting for a second belt. So you have flyweight, Alexandre Pantoja. He's not a, one of the biggest perpetrators of this, but he's already hinted at wanting to go up and fight Sean O'Malley. He's only defended his belt once. He defended his belt once against Brandon Royval at UFC 296, and he's already been hinting, I think even before that title fight, it might have been just after, I don't remember the exact timeline, already hinting about potentially taking on bantamweight champion Sean O'Malley. Then you have Sean O'Malley, the bantamweight champion. And this actually grinds my gears even more, because this kind of goes along with the fact that champions are winning the belt and then saying they want to move up and fight this guy or fight that guy. You also have champions who are calling for quote-unquote super fights where it's just a bigger draw and they're not actually fighting legitimate contenders. And that's already the case with Sean O'Malley. People think I hate Sean O'Malley. I like watching Sean O'Malley fight, but he's already now won the belt against Aljamain Sterling. He has not defended the belt once. He's already talking about moving up to 45. He's already advocating for it heavily. And on top of that, his first title defense is set to take place at UFC 299. He's taking on Marlon Chito Vera, who's on a one-fight winning streak. 2 fights ago, he was completely outclassed and dominated by Corey Sandhagen. So you're avoiding legit contenders, and now he's talking about, if I beat Marlon Vera, I want to move up to 45 and fight Ilia Topuria if Ilia Topuria wins the belt at UFC 298, which he said is he's going to be in attendance at 298. So there's a chance in an alternate universe where Ilia Topuria wins at 298, Sean O'Malley wins at 299, which is very possible. And then all of a sudden they're trying to fight each other, even though Topuria isn't necessarily trying to fight Sean O'Malley. He's kind of said he has a little bit of interest, but he's kind of been talking about other things. You get to featherweight, you have Volkanovski, who Volkanovski deserved to get a lightweight title shot. He had 4 title defenses before he fought Islam Makhachev the first time at UFC 284. I think he deserved that shot. I think Volkanovski, one of the greatest of all time, definitely, right up there as the GOAT at featherweight, but one of the GOATs of the sport. He deserved the first shot against Islam Makhachev. He got it, he lost. And then they did the rematch at UFC 294 on short notice, which I absolutely hated. and Alexander Volkanovski got brutally KO'd. So he's already had 2 opportunities. Volkanovski, I don't want to see him fighting for lightweight title. He's at least got to get 3 or 4 more title defenses before he gets another potential shot. But at this point, he's 35. He's never getting another shot again, which is why I hate the fact that he took the short notice fight at UFC 294. It ruined that. And also, in a way, it ruined Volkanovski versus Topuria, but we'll talk about that a little bit later. It's not actually ruined. Then you have Topuria, who's talking about if he wins the featherweight belt, he's not talking about taking on Islam Makhachev. He says, oh, I want the money fight against Conor McGregor. I want the red panty night against Conor McGregor. I mean, is this the joke of the sport that we want? Topuria's already advocating. He's saying, you know, I'm not giving a shot to Yair Rodriguez. I'm not giving a shot to Max Holloway. I'm not giving a shot to Brian Ortega, which Brian Ortega doesn't even belong in the rankings, let alone for a title shot. But he's basically saying, I'm not fighting anyone. I'm going to fight Conor McGregor instead because that's a bigger paycheck, which is completely embarrassing. So when Topuria says these types of things, when O'Malley says these types of things, saying, oh, I'm going up to 45 after I beat, you know, Marlon Chito Vera and I'm going to go box, it makes me want to root against these guys. Then you have 155, Islam Makhachev. He has 2 title defenses, which is decent. Don't get me wrong. 2 wins over Alexander Volkanovski. One of them was on short notice. He's advocated, oh, I want to take on Leon Edwards. He said, you know, I would like to fight Leon Edwards next. Now, he hasn't been like crazy doubling down on it, but he wants that fight. He's told the UFC he wants that fight. And only 2 title defenses, I don't think he should be able to move up with 2 title defenses against the same guy, and one of them was on short notice. If there was absolutely no contender, sure, maybe. But we're going to hold up divisions just because you want to fight for a second belt when you only have 2 title defenses? Absolutely not. Then you have Leon Edwards, who also has 2 title defenses. And he's been talking about, he said, after Colby Covington, there's nobody to fight. I did an entire video on that. He said, oh, there's nobody to fight. When there's a bunch of legitimate contenders, Bilal Muhammad, Shavkat Rakhmonov, to name a few. Then you have like JDM, Ian Machado, Gary kind of working their way up the ranks right now. Leon Edwards hasn't even come close to cleaning out the division. He's talking about he wanted the winner of Dricus versus Strickland, which obviously Dricus won that fight, beat Sean Strickland. Then you have Dricus, and again, I'm not complaining about all these guys. Some of these guys have just kind of casually mentioned they want to eventually fight for a second title and move up a weight class. Dricus is saying, yeah, I want to take on Alex Pereira at light heavyweight, which is like, you just won the belt. And I know he said it even before he won the belt. He kind of has, you know, aspirations to be double champ. And again, you know, not all these guys have been like super annoying, but it's like, why is this becoming a trend? This shouldn't even be remotely accepted by the MMA community. You have people debating, oh, yeah, I'd like to see Dricus versus Pereira. Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Not right now, at least. You have a lot of work to do before you get a second title shot. Then you have Alex Pereira. He hasn't really said all that much, but you have his coach, I think it was Glover actually, saying, yeah, Pereira will go to heavyweight eventually. And you have a lot of talk recently, and I pray this doesn't come to fruition. People talking about, yeah, Pereira versus Tom Aspinall. They're going to fight for the interim heavyweight title at UFC 300. That's what people are suggesting. That's kind of a rumor that's been going around. I pray that doesn't get put together. That's an embarrassment to this sport. Pereira just won the belt. He has 0 title defenses. So out of all these guys, the majority of them either have 0 title defenses or 1 title defense. Then the couple guys that have 2 title defenses, and, you know, Volkanovski, who has 4 title defenses, already had his shot twice. So none of these guys should have an opportunity to fight for a second belt anytime soon. And it's because, you know, the MMA community in general has perverted the term super fight, where it doesn't really mean what it used to mean. Now it's kind of any kind of somewhat big fight, and then, you know, most of the time champion versus champion is automatically deemed a super fight, but it's not even always that when it's deemed a super fight. But you have all these guys who haven't even cleaned out their divisions begging for shots up, begging for shots at a weight class above. It makes absolutely no sense. They should have a lot of work to do. They should have to clean out their divisions. They should have to defend their titles multiple times. And what's crazy is I don't think people realize why this is happening. It's not really talked about why it is happening. And the reason it's happening, I believe, predominantly is a fighter pay issue. I believe a lot of these guys don't believe they're getting paid what they're worth. And they look at a double champ fight as a way to get paid more. So they're thinking, you know what? If I go up a weight class, I challenge for a belt, I'm going to get more money because the UFC is going to pay me more. On top of that, I'm going to get more money from pay-per-view points because theoretically, champ versus champ should garner more pay-per-view sales. But then also on top of that, they're thinking, Well, it's a lower risk. So you have a lower risk, high reward, because think about Sean O'Malley's talking about, oh, if I beat Marlon Vera and Topuria wins, I'm going to go up and fight Topuria. He's thinking that's a big check, but also, let's say he gets brutalized by Ilia Topuria. He's going to go right back down to bantamweight and say, oh, well, I shot my shot and I lost. I got beat by the bigger fighter. It's an easy out. It's an easy excuse for when they end up losing. And also, I feel like a lot of these guys, I understand it's like a goal. Like, I want to become double champ. Conor McGregor is the guy that really started this trend of wanting to become a double champion, and Conor got it with no title defenses. He never defended a title to this day. He won 2 championships, never defended it. And he started this movement of fighters wanting to attempt to become double champ. And then more recently, I feel like with Volkanovski moving up and taking his shot at Islam Makhachev, you have more guys saying it. But I think it's predominantly more money, lower risk. And then also you have the guys that think about, okay, this is my legacy. This is for my greatness. This is for the history books. If I become double champ, that is kind of rare in the sport. There's not a whole lot of double champs. So I think a lot of guys are also thinking, well, if I can become double champ, that really solidifies my legacy. Where it used to be, you won a belt and then you defended it multiple times and you were known, oh, this guy was a dominant champ. And then once you had a couple title defenses, then maybe we could start talking about you fighting for double champ status. I remember back in the day, it never happened, but the super fight, the true super fight that everyone wanted to see was GSP versus Anderson Silva. Both of them were cleaning out their division, and a lot of people wanted to see them fight each other. Now, ultimately, it didn't happen, which is super unfortunate because it's a fight a lot of people wanted to see. But that is what it used to actually be, where you become a champion, you defend your belt multiple times, there'd be very few contenders, then the weight class above you, the champion is cleaning out their division as well, and then you guys would face off and it'd be like, this is a true super fight. This is a crazy matchup. But now it's like, oh, you won the belt, you guys want to fight each other, let's hold up the divisions. I absolutely hate it because when you have these quote-unquote super fights or these double champ fights, you're holding up the division for legit contenders. I'm tired of that. If you want to fight for the belt above your weight class, you need to defend your belt multiple times. I really truly believe there should be like a concrete rule of maybe like 3 to 4 title defenses before you actually get an opportunity. Like let's say, we'll use Islam Makhachev as an example because he's already defended his belt twice. Let's say he defends it 2 more times. Let's say he goes out there, beats Oliveira in a rematch, and then let's say he beats Justin Gaethje, or let's say he beats Arman and beats Justin Gaethje. I'm just making up 2 hypothetical scenarios. He's defended his belt 4 times. No matter who is the champion at welterweight, if he really wants that shot, and there's not like a must-see fight at welterweight, there's not like this undeniable contender, then okay, let's give him the shot. But I think the bare minimum should be 3 title defenses, but I think, ideally it should be at least 4 title defenses because you're holding up divisions. But if you're a dominant champion who's now defended your belt a couple times, chances are you don't have a long list of contenders. Like for Leon Edwards, right now he has, Bilal Muhammad and Shavkat Rakhmonov, who arguably both deserve a title shot right now. And he already has other younger guys making their way up the ranks. So think about it. Leon Edwards has already defended his belt twice. One of them was an undeserved title shot from Colby Covington. But let's say Leon defends his belt 2 more times. Let's say he beats Bilal and beats Shavkat. Okay, there might be another contender, maybe JDM or Ian Machado Gary or someone else who kind of comes up out of nowhere. But there's not like this long log jam of contenders. Then Leon Edwards can attempt to become middleweight champion. I think you have to be able to defend your belt a couple times because it's also ruining big fights. I know people are like acting like these double champ fights are so big and crazy, but think about this. And I know this is a little bit different situation, but you had Alexander Volkanovski coming off that beautiful win against Yair Rodriguez. Imagine how much bigger and how much more we would be hyped for the Ilia Topuria fight if he didn't take that short notice double champ status fight against Islam Makhachev where he got brutally KO'd. I know Volk versus Topuria is still a big fight, but just imagine we can erase that KO from our memory. I feel like Volk versus Topuria would be so much bigger. And I feel like we ruin legit, very interesting fights that are based on meritocracy. Also, we can have some kind of gimmicky double championship fight where they're not even dominant champs. It used to never even been thought of. And I know occasionally, the Conor McGregor situation is obviously a very special situation, but it had to be ideal scenarios for double champ status to happen. I understand, let's say you don't even have contenders, Like, I don't remember the exact situation for DC versus Stipe, but DC was kind of moving to heavyweight, and he wanted the opportunity to become heavyweight champion and become double champion. Okay, if there's not a long list of contenders, you can make it, even if you guys haven't necessarily cleaned out your divisions. But in a lot of these cases, you have all these marquee matchups you can make, aka Alexander Volkanovski versus Ilia Topuria, which I know is happening anyway. But instead, you're making Volkanovski versus Islam 2 on short notice, which I feel like, honestly, I am very hyped for Volkanovski versus Topuria. I know I keep kind of harping on this fight, but let's say I'm like a 7 out of 10 hyped for that fight. I would have been a 10 out of 10 if it wasn't for that KO loss. And I feel like it takes the luster off of some of these fights. Like, let's say Leon Edwards beats Bilal, right? And then he moves up and challenges for a middleweight title fight. I would much prefer, and I know we're looking into the future and there's a lot of variables, I would much prefer Leon Edwards to stay at welterweight and fight Shavkat Rakhmonov rather than go up and potentially lose to Dricus or whoever's champion at the time and then come back down off a loss and fight, an undefeated Shavkat Rakhmonov who's finished every single fight. It takes the luster off of some of these big fights where you can have legit contenders in the division fighting for the belt. It's ruining the sport because it's making it like this weird, like, oh, okay, well, we want to make a big fight and we want to say, oh, it's champion versus champion, so let's just book this fight. And now you literally have every single, champion now advocating for the shot at becoming double champ, and I'm just tired of hearing about it. So I think bare minimum, it should be at least 3 title defenses. If you don't have 3 title defenses, don't even talk about moving up a weight class. And I think us as fans, if we want to put a stop to this, we have to stop even entertaining it. When Dricus Du Plessis says, oh, I want to go up and fight Pereira when he hasn't defended his belt at all, we say, oh, who wants to see that? Nobody wants to see that. We have to revolt against that potential idea. When Ilia Topuria, I know necessarily his is a little bit different scenario. He's not saying Islam Makhachev. He's talking about Conor McGregor. When he says, oh, yeah, when I win the belt, I want to fight Conor McGregor, we have to revolt against that idea. When Sean O'Malley wants to not fight contenders and instead fight Marlon Chito Vera WWE style, we have to revolt against that. If he beats Marlon Chito Vera and says, oh, I want to go up, you've only defended your belt once. You don't deserve to go up. Topuria just won his belt, hypothetically, in that scenario. Why do we want to see that fight? Go defend your belts a couple times, and then that makes that fight actually massive. Imagine Sean O'Malley, hypothetically, let's say he beats Marlon Chito Vera, he beats Merab, and he beats Corey Sandhagen. Meanwhile, Topuria beats Volk, beats Holloway, and beats Yair Rodriguez. I'm just throwing out names. Beats Movsar Evloev. Then imagine after those performances, whatever they may look like, imagine those on surging win streaks. Then we get O'Malley versus Ilia Topuria. Imagine how prestigious and amazing that double championship fight would be. But until then, I don't want to see it. I'm tired of hearing about it. I think we have to stop even glamorizing some of these fighters who are looking to get a double champ opportunity when they haven't even defended their belt. I don't care what champion it is. I'm tired of hearing about it. I wanted to make a video because it seems like every single day we're hearing about another champion saying, yeah, I want to go up a weight class. You haven't defended your belt at all. You're not Conor McGregor. You shouldn't get that special treatment. Conor McGregor shouldn't have got that special treatment, especially when he lost to Nate Diaz, who's a journeyman on short notice, and then barely squeaked out a win against Nate Diaz, and then still got a double champ shot against RDA, or against Eddie Alvarez, which was an absolute disgrace at the time, but people wanted to see that fight. But a lot of these guys aren't even Conor McGregor, so they don't deserve it. They shouldn't get it. Us fans shouldn't even entertain it, and we should revolt against it any time that it's suggested, unless they've cleaned out their divisions. So I wanted to make a video about this because it's really been annoying me lately. It just seems so predominant lately of every single champion. Let me know what you guys think down in the comments. Don't forget to like the video. Don't forget to subscribe, and thank you so much for watching.